Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 6 of AMC's Mayfair Witches, entitled Transference. This episode title refers to the main point of this episode, which is the attempted and successful transference of Lasher to, well, someone else. Actually, I think it might be actually up for debate whether or not it was successful, but for all intents and purposes, they at least want us to believe that it was successful and that Lasher was transferred to this young girl, Tessa, who we met, I think, 2 episodes ago, maybe, blonde. She was at Deirdre's funeral, and she had a whole lot of, she was like one of those young, promising people with all sorts of ambition, and she's looking at being a witch as almost like a political game, and she has all sorts of high expectations and hopes for Rowan as a, what were they called, designees or something like that. But that's what the episode title is based on, and things don't quite work out for Tessa though, because even though it does appear that Lasher gets transferred to her, she meets with this guy who we've been seeing consistently, who is I guess part of like the He-Man Woman Haters Club, because like he attends these meetings where they shit on women and call them witches, and he has Deirdre's heart. He works at a morgue, so he has Deirdre's heart, and Tessa tries to meet with him and glamour him, and but it doesn't work because it was a setup, and the other people from the He-Man Women's Haters Club come and they capture Tessa, because even though she attempts to summon Lasher, he doesn't show up, which is why I said I feel like it might be up for debate whether or not the transfer even happened, and maybe it was a thing where, again, we don't know, because this show could not be less concerned with defining what Lasher can and can't do. But maybe Lasher made it so that everything that we saw that led us to believe that he left Rowan was something that he just like made pretend. Like he made it seem like he left. He made it seem like the necklace was choosing Tessa, but at the end of the day, he's still attached to Rowan, and that's why he didn't show up to help Tessa. But like I said, we might find out, but it won't be until the show directly tells us that's what happened, because the show has chosen not to define Lasher at all. And you know, I've shit on the Lasher character all season, and it's because I've said they haven't defined him, and I think that's a poor decision. After this episode, I kind of, like, I don't really care about that anymore, about defining him. One, because it's very clear that they have no intentions of doing that. Like, we're at the end of episode 6. So episode 7 is going to be the next one, and they haven't even made a honest attempt at defining what this guy can do. So I've let it go for that reason, but I've also let it go because, and I'm not trying to like even say this jokingly, Lasher is such a shitty character that I don't even care anymore. Like, I cared at the beginning because I had hope for the show. I'm like, this is what the show needs to do. This is what I need to see out of this character to make this character work. And it was very much a, these are the flaws that I'm seeing that I'm going to give this show the opportunity to remedy. We're now heading into episode 7, and the show doesn't give a fuck. They're not going to remedy that. And I believe that they believe the less they tell us, the better it is, because that's all mysterious and it's mystical. And we're gonna be like, oh, I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on. He's so mysterious. Mystery doesn't work in this case. And I'm not gonna get on the rant again. I've said it probably every week for like the last 3 or 4 weeks at this point. But that's not a good strategy, but that's clearly, I think, the one that they intend on employing. No information is mysterious and cool, and that's what they want to do. So I don't care anymore for that reason, for number one. But number two, like I said, the Lasher character is so shitty that I don't even care what he can or can't do anymore, because they wasted the time now. Like I'm done with the character. I'm like, this is not a character that I find interesting. This is not a character that I find intimidating. This is not a character who I think, like, what is this guy gonna do as like the main antagonist of this show? I do not care, because every time we see Lasher, he's doing stupid fucking parlor tricks. He's not even doing anything cool. It's like, hey, I disappeared and then I reappeared 7 feet to my right. Or I lit some candles when you weren't looking. Look how you can hold this flame in your hand. Oh, now Lasher's reflecting in the window. Like, it all feels like cheap fucking amateurish magic tricks. And this is what you want us to think of your main antagonist, is that all he is a fucking clown with mediocre magic. That's how he is on the show. And it's like, you can dress him up, you can fucking straighten his hair, you can do whatever you want. He's not a good looking guy, so the sexy thing's not working. And at the end of the day, who wants to fuck a magician? Nobody. And that's what this guy is doing. He's a cheap fucking magician. Nothing he does is even impressive. Like, can you, like, I don't know. I'm not even gonna try to think of like something cool that he can do. But it seems like everything he does is like some little cheap magic trick. And it's like, okay, if this is who this guy's gonna be, someone who's gonna, appear out of nowhere and light a candle and be like, that was cool, and then leave. Like, okay, you don't give a fuck about this guy. I don't give a fuck about this guy. So I'm gonna stop asking for them to define Lasher, because like, making all these points, like if you define his limitations, then maybe we can see him as a threat, because then we're like, okay, he's powerful, but then you can get him this way, or then you can do this, or even like, how do you stop somebody with all of these different powers? But when it's completely undefined, it's like how am I supposed to be invested in this? Because I don't even know what to expect out of this guy. I don't know how he can be stopped, and not knowing how he can be stopped because I don't know what he can do is a problem. Not knowing how he can be stopped because he has powers that make me think like, oh, how do you stop that guy? That's better. But I'm not going to teach these people a lesson anymore. Like, I say every time, I'm like, I'm no writer, I'm no so-and-so. I'm not trying to tell them what to do. I'm telling them what to do in this case. You fuck this character up from the ceiling to the floor. This is a shit character. I am completely uninterested and not invested at all in anything this guy does or says. And every time he pops up on the screen, he's doing shitty magic tricks. I don't take him serious. I don't take him any more seriously than I would take a magician at a fucking 6-year-old birthday party. So like, fuck this character. They fucked it up, and I do know enough to know that. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell them how to fix it anymore. It's too late. The shit's already filmed anyway. It doesn't fucking matter. But clearly there's no investment in making this character interesting, intimidating, defined. There's no interest there. So if they don't care, I don't care. Fuck that character. He sucks. Another thing about this episode, and I don't want to just when I say I don't want to come on here and shit on something, it means I don't want to put extra emphasis on the bad stuff without properly highlighting the good stuff. Fortunately for me, this show doesn't have any good stuff, or very little of it. But at the same time, I'm still trying to come at this from I don't want to say a place of learning, because I'm not here to educate, but I'm here to, I guess, share with you how I see things, right? So I see things like, this is why this doesn't work for me. This is why I think it doesn't work for me. Maybe this would have been better. And I'm not coming on here to shit on the show. I'm coming on here because I'm thinking like, okay, I can give more examples of things that I didn't like and why. Like, I'm not, and that's the important part. I'm not sitting here like, fuck this, fuck that, this sucks, that sucks. I'm telling you why I think it sucks. And I'm giving reasons, I'm giving ideas on how I think it can be better. And another thing that I think stood out in a negative way in this episode was Alexandra Daddario's acting. And, I talked about in my first video that I've kind of felt bad for her, because I feel like she's constantly casting things for physical reasons. Like, oh, it's a beautiful woman with big tits. Like, let's put her in this thing and get her naked, and there we go. And it's like, I'm like, can she get a role? Not can she get a role? Like, can she get a role she doesn't have to get naked? Can she like actually, can we see if she can act or not. Like, I mean, obviously she can still act and get naked at the same time, but it just kind of feels like it's like, okay, let's just, like, she's a pretty face, so we're gonna roll her in because people come to watch pretty faces. And it's like, okay, I wanted to get an opportunity to see her acting chops. You know, okay, like, what is she gonna do with this role, playing this woman who's discovering she's a witch? What is she gonna do with this? And I was intrigued to see what kind of acting performance we would get out of her. But she has 2 moments in this episode that were, in my opinion, they were so bad that they bordered on cringy. And it's like, to the point of like, I hope you can get work after this. Like, work that's not, let's get you on the show, get you naked and get you fucked, and then get you out of here. Like, that's how it kind of feels like she's been put into roles. And like I said, I'm over here trying to champion against that kind of shit. Like, you know, give her an opportunity to show what she could really do, and stop casting her in shit where I feel like you just casted her for her appearance. And she got something where she hasn't gotten naked on this show yet. So I feel like, okay, this was her opportunity to show me what she could do with some serious acting roles. And I'm sorry, I do not want to shit on her, like, to say that she only takes shitty roles. I don't want to say that, but I don't want to compare this to her other roles, outside of the fact that I feel like a lot of her other roles, she's cast for her appearance and not what she can do. And then I looked at this one and I'm like, well, if they're not gonna have her get naked all the time, maybe I can now see, like, okay, now I can see what she could do, because if she's not gonna get naked all the time, that means that they cast her for reasons other than that, right? So, but like I said, there's two scenes in this episode that I thought were not good for her. The first was when Sip had the necklace, and she tried to at his house, and she tried to go like full Smeagol on him about how it's her precious and it belonged to her. And like, to me, the reason that scene didn't quite work is because there was a level of restraint there, I think, that if she had really went for it, it would have been more believable. But that should have felt like, the way I look at it as, if it should have been like Lord of the Rings, right? The Gollum was entirely different from Smeagol. Smeagol is the same entity, but Smeagol was a different person than Gollum was. And I felt like in that moment, it would have helped if I felt like I was not seeing Rowan, I was seeing an entirely different person, just in Alexandra Daddario's great body, right? But it didn't feel like that. It just felt like a Alexandra Daddario pretending to be someone else. Like that was like, at worst, it felt like Alexandra Daddario doing a bad impression of Rowan acting like Smeagol. At best, it felt like Rowan acting like Smeagol. So, but like, at no point did it feel like Smeagol. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that I didn't feel like Rowan was Smeagol. I got it backwards, actually. I didn't feel like Rowan was Smeagol, and in that scene she was Gollum. I felt like in that scene, that was Rowan pretending to be Gollum at best, and at worst, which is really how it felt, it was Alexandra Daddario pretending to be Gollum. And it just didn't work for me, and I felt like I should have seen a little bit less restraint. Think about Gollum. There's a good comparison here, at least to what they were going for, because they made it even directly. It's a necklace instead of a ring, but it's the same idea, right? So I think I don't want to say we're meant to compare the two, because that would have been a very foolish decision on their part. But unfortunately, they seem to have missed the idea that those two things are comparable, because if they had noticed that, they probably would have had Alexandra go for it a little bit more. And I don't want to say she half-assed it or anything like that, but like, to me, I felt like there was just a measure of restraint that didn't really sell that scene to me. But I didn't really have it as a thing where it's like, oh, Alexandra's not doing great today. Like, I moved on from it. It wasn't until the second scene that I put this down as something I wanted to talk about. And the second one is during the ceremony when she starts doing the chant. And what sucked about that one is, had we not seen the Susanna character do it way fucking better in like the previous scene or 2 scenes prior, maybe she gets away with the kind of lifeless version that she did. But like, go watch it again, like, if you're doubting me here, because watch how the Suzanne character does it, and how it looks truly unhinged and truly like someone who is like calling out of desperation. Like, I'm about to die. I'm desperate. I'm saying these words now. I don't have any choice. And then like the transition to where like you can see it kind of take over her. She's got the wet hair. She's sweating. You got like way more believable, right? And then like 2 scenes later, you have Alexandra Daddario repeating it almost in like repeating the words in like almost like a monotone fashion. Then the eyes go white, and then she's like she just gets louder, and it's like it was such a lifeless portrayal of someone being taken over by like a spirit, especially when you have it compared to what the Suzanne character had done 2 scenes earlier. And this show didn't need more things for me to be critical about, but yeah, I thought that she did not do a great job in that scene. And even Cortland was an interesting this week. You know, I've been invested in what's he up to, and I still can't get a read on his intentions, which also that's starting to irritate me as well. Like I found it intriguing in episode 1, 2, and 3. Like I don't know if I could trust this guy. Like, is he trying to help Rowan? Is he trying to help Lasher? Like, I don't really know if I could trust this guy. And I feel like I'm like 0% more in tune with Cortland's intentions. And it's the same thing that I said about Lasher. It's like, now I don't care anymore because you don't care. And now that's kind of how I feel about Cortland too. I'm like, okay, now we're entering episode 7. I still can't get a read on this guy and his intentions. And even though I still find Cortland technically interesting, each week that they don't provide me with any further information on who he is, or not who he is, but like what his plans are or what his intentions are, I care less and less. I find him less and less interesting because that's the only thing I find interesting about him. So if you're gonna refuse to give me anything in that realm, then I'm gonna stop caring about that character too. I did like though how Rowan does her little magic trick, her magic trick, which normally she's been like using her power to like go inside somebody's brain and like fuck them up or something like that. But now apparently she can just like look inside your body and know what's wrong with you. There's a new trick that they rolled out for her. Well, never mind. But I do like how and when I say like, I'm using the term very loosely here. I like how she compared having Lasher pop up to his ALS. like if I could get rid of ALS, wouldn't you want that? Like, duh, of course I would. That's how I feel about Lasher. Like, okay, what? This fucking guy pops up every now and then, lights a candle, says something sexy to you, and leaves. But that's the same as that's the same as Cortland's ALS. The fuck out of here. Like, who wrote that shit, man? Come on. I know what they're trying to go for. The idea of like having something that's attached to you or that's one with you that you can't get rid of. I get the comparison. It's just, it works better if Lasher wasn't such a shitty character. But Lasher only shows up, he very rarely shows up. When he does show up, he's doing bad magic tricks and trying to fuck her. It's not the same as having ALS, my guy. Like, it's not working. But the biggest takeaway from this episode, though, which, this is where I don't think I have anything positive to say about this episode. It's actually kind of sad if this is the big takeaway. This is the big takeaway. But it's sad because it shouldn't be surprising to you if you've been paying any attention to the show or any attention to my videos, because I've been saying this from day one. Maybe not episode 1, but probably at least episode 2. But the big takeaway here is that it's revealed that Suzanne is the original Mayfair. They tried to burn her alive after all the events that we've seen in the previous 5 episodes for about 42 seconds apiece. Side note, it's a good. I almost turned it off after the Suzanne scene to start this episode, because they're like, "Are you the midwife?" She's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Come with us." She's like, "I didn't do anything," and then it's like, "That's for God to decide." And they take her away, and it ends. I'm like, "Yo, we got like this. This was the worst one." I'm like, "You opened this up with like a 14-second Suzanne scene." Like, I almost turned it off. On God, I almost turned it off, and I didn't. And I'm glad that I didn't, because they put more Suzanne scenes in the episode, which I would have had no reason to expect, because they haven't done that before. So they're lucky that I didn't turn it off, because based on the other 5 episodes, I wasn't going to see Suzanne again. And with that shitty opening scene, I'm like, that's what they're going to give me for this week's Suzanne story? Fuck this. I almost turned it off, but I didn't. But we learned that she's the original Mayfair or whatever. They tried to burn her alive. She summoned Lasher. And that was sort of that was the start of Lasher's attachment to this family. But the one thing we did learn that we didn't already know, that we wouldn't have, that wasn't already glaringly fucking obvious this entire time, is that the necklace with the key on it, that key is the key that was used to lock Suzanne into the cage that she was about to be burned alive in. So that's one little piece of information that we learned. And then lastly, real quick, one quick thought. I liked how in that same scene, Suzanne goes, "Am I a witch now?" And Lasher's like, "You my witch, nah." And I thought that was like very much like they took a line from The Deuce and they changed it. Like before, like on The Deuce, it was like, "Am I your bitch?" And he's like, "Yeah, you my bitch now." And they're like, "Oh, we could use that on we can use that on Mayfair witches. Let's just change bitch to witch." Boom, we got it. That felt very much like it was originally written as bitch and they just changed it to witch. Like, "You're my bitch now." That's what that felt like. And I thought that was funny, and not in a good way. Because I don't think that was meant to be funny. I think that was them being shitty at writing like they've been throughout the whole rest of the show. So I intended on telling you guys I was not going to cover this show anymore after this video. But I'm not gonna completely rule it out. I'm like at about 90% in that space. But like I said earlier in the video, there is a part of me that's like, I can use this to kind of talk about not just like the things that I think this show is doing wrong, but why I think it doesn't work and how I think it can be better. Like, I could have just sat here and just shit on it, for whatever reason. But like, I didn't just shit on what I thought was not a couple of not great scenes from Alexandra Daddario. I said like, okay, the reason I didn't like the first one was because it felt a little restrained to me. And if it was a little bit more like, this is an entirely different person, holy shit, like Smeagol versus Gollum, the scene works better. But it was too restrained. And then the second one, I was like, maybe that one works better if we didn't have Suzanne doing a great fucking job of the exact same thing in the scene prior. So it's like, I'm not just sitting here like, yo, this shit sucks. Alexandra's not a great actor. She did. I'm not sitting here shitting on the show. I'm telling you why I think this stuff doesn't work. And that's kind of the level of analysis that I try to bring when I'm not making jokes or whatever, is explain to you guys how I look at things and how I see things. So I think there's some value in that, and I might still I don't know how many episodes are left. Like, if there's 10, I'm probably not gonna do it. But if there's 8, so all I gotta do is 7 and 8, I'll probably do those. But if there's 10, I don't know. I did not want to watch this episode. I didn't want to do this video until when I was doing my notes and I got to the part about Alexandra's acting, and I was like, well, this is a new kind of thing, and I could talk about why I didn't like that. So I still did it. But unless I find value in shitting on it, I'm not gonna keep doing it. So like, cause that's not what I'm here for, is to just hit record and shit on a show like that every fucking week. I'll do it when it happens, but if that's the kind of show that I have, where every episode is gonna be one that I would shit on, I'm not gonna watch it and I'm not gonna cover it. But like I said, I saw value in talking about her acting performances in this episode. I saw value in, what was the other thing that I talked about that I thought was interesting? The idea of accepting the fact that they are not going to define Lasher, and that I think this is what they think is the smart way to play this. Those kind of things, like that level of analysis, that's why I'm still here. Like I said, if there's 2 more episodes left and they're not completely fucking terrible, I'll probably still cover it. But I'm on the fence. It's going to be one of those things where like, it'll be next Friday, the 17th, and you'll either see a video or you won't. I don't know. But I'll put a message up on the YouTube if I'm not gonna cover it anymore next Friday, and I'll put it on the Facebook page. So if you're not already on one of those pages because you didn't listen to the little promo at the beginning, if you're not already on the Facebook or anything like that, I implore you to do so. And maybe I'll see you guys next week for episode 7. I don't know, we'll see. But until then, peace.